Hey Sterling, I've been watching your stuff for just over a half a year and it's done wonders for me. I've read your HIGMP, Performance Anxiety, and Seal the Deal guides and watched heaps of your videos. It's clear you know your stuff and are passionate about helping men get their lives together. Thank you. My question is something I've taken to get licensed therapists and also researched in countless psychological journals over the last decade. In short, and I don't want to go into a sob story about this, but I was abused as a child and it's created a number of struggles in my personal life as an adult. Thing is, current psychological practices are geared for women, so when I go to a therapist or do independent research, I get advice that's often worse or no help at all. You've gone to lengths to establish yourself as a master of healthy male sexuality, and I'm hoping you can help me leap the gap from my current headspace to the headspace you've described in your ebooks. To that end, let me describe some of my struggles and then show how modern psychology utterly fails to help. Struggle, anger, towards women especially. A portion of that abuse was from women who mostly used emotional means, an older sister staging a suicide attempt in front of me when I was 10, and then using my guilt and fear from that experience to control and bully me for years after. This anger makes me feel obligated to stay away from women in order to protect them from myself, which has led heaps of failed starts with countless women over the years, which has compounded the anger into bitterness and insecurity. Modern psychology solution: well, you just need to be more empathetic towards women, you privileged male. Result: the guy, I sideline my anger, focus on what women want, and get friend zoned, which makes me even angrier. Struggle, sexual identity. Another portion of the abuse was sexual, first from an older boy and later from a grown man. Talking to men about this stuff, I get the sense that most men have this wall in their heads, blocking them from doing anything sexual with other men, even if they are somewhat inclined towards it. My wall was broken down against my will before I even knew what sex was, and those formative experiences defined sex and my sense of self in unhealthy ways that conflict with my true nature. I'm attracted to women, and the few experiences I've had with them have been way, way more fulfilling than anything from the other side of the wall, and yet that's the sexual role I've been conditioned to play. I want my wall back. Modern psychology, read this book on LGBT issues. Did you know 63% of bisexual men have been sexually abused? Here's your victim card. Result: identify as a bisexual, even though I know that's not true. It's like a sore on the roof of my mouth. I poke at the trauma by reenacting, i.e. hooking up with a dude. It feels awful and everything gets worse. Struggle, arousal. Lots of guys get stressed or insecure in their heads. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about conditioned fear responses, disassociation, and other PTSD type issues. Modern psychology, here's some techniques that have helped countless women make friends with their genitalia. Result: it's just garbage, completely irrelevant to the male sexual experience. I don't need help figuring out how to be comfortable in a passive sexual role. I need help figuring out how to go from on guard to in charge. It all comes down to a matter of headspace. The question is this: how do I get out of this unhealthy headspace and center on one of confident sexual masculinity? Thanks for reading. I look forward to your reply.
Cool. So it's got 3 things to break down there, but the first one, and well, actually probably all 3. The first 2 are actually really, really heavily tied into that last one anyway. So we'll start with the first part, which talked about like the abuse you've had from women and stuff like this, and I guess the emotional baggage they dumped on you. So that's actually very common, not necessarily to the extreme that you've had it, with the suicide attempt in front of you and stuff like that. But women will mothers will do this very often to their sons without even realizing it. Like, they'll dump emotional baggage and turmoil on their son in this really unhealthy way, basically weaponizing guilt and shame. And that you actually use those exact words too. So guilt and shame are like the 2 biggest weapons, shall we say, or tools, shall we say, that women have to get a man to do what they want. And here's a frame of reference that might help you to understand this and come at it from a perspective of not being angry about or angry at women. I actually made a video on my YouTube a while ago titled like "Getting Over Your Red Pill Rage with Women." I suggest you watch that as well. It will probably help a bit on this as well. But the idea is like, okay, think of a baby for a second. All that a baby can do is cry. You don't get angry at the baby for crying, right? Because that's all the baby can do to get what it wants from the world around it. Like, it shit its pants, it's hungry, whatever. Like, it doesn't know how to communicate with us. like the mother or the father. So all it does is cry and hope that we figure it out, right? Because that's its only tool at that present time in life. So that's what babies have, right? Men, what tools do they have for getting what they want in the world? They have force and violence, really, if you really think about it. Throughout history, that's how the male species has gotten what it's wanted from the world. It's how men have gathered resources. It's how men have conquered enemies. It's how men have accumulated women, primarily, not entirely, but primarily through violence and force, right? Through manipulating the world around them. That can, that's not just like physical violence, isn't like beating someone up, but it's also in terms of manipulating the world around you through force. So like building things, constructing things, sowing seeds, these kind of things. This is all kind of elements of force. Now women, so that's how men get what they want out of the world around them. The only tools that women have to get something from the world around them is emotional manipulation. And there's the positive side, the dark side. So they can be caring, kind, and nurturing, and get what they want from a man. Now you could still call that manipulation, because it's not but people use the word manipulation, I always have a negative context around that, but it's still manipulation when you think about it. If a woman's being nice and kind to you, you want to treat her well, you want to take her out for dinner, you want to do nice things to her, but she's still using emotions to adjust your behavior. But it's fine, because it's a mutual win-win. I ain't got a problem with being manipulated by a woman if she's being lovely to me. That's a good thing. I think that's a win-win. Now, the dark side of female nature is the shame and guilt you mentioned. And women will use that a lot as a weapon. So it's just about being aware of that, being aware of the nature of the beast you're dealing with, aka women. Once you're aware of their true nature, and I think it sounds like you kind of are on that journey anyway. If you're digesting my material, if you're digesting red pill kind of material, you're going to get an understanding of true female nature. But you're probably going to you might be getting a somewhat negatively skewed perspective on it, because a lot of guys in this space can come from somewhat of a jaded or damaged background, which is okay. That's fine. It's all well and good. But understand that the women do have a positive light side as well as a sort of a negative dark side. In the same way that men do. So once you accept women for what they actually are, then you can truly love them. It's when men are delusional about women, and they can be delusional on both extremes. They can be delusional in the sense that they think women are sugar and spice and all things nice, and they can do no wrong. And then a woman fucks them over and takes half their money in divorce court or something like that. And they're just flabbergasted. Their worldview is shattered and broken, and they're completely confused. And they feel manipulated, they feel lied to. And then there's other guys who come from a very, very negative perspective on women. And I assume that you are coming from this perspective where all you've ever seen from women is this negative side of them, the shame and the guilt. And you have to understand that they do have a loving, nurturing side to them as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And some of the best experiences you could possibly have in your life are with a loving woman. So once you understand that women have the light and the dark side, you can accept them for who they actually are, and don't expect them to be something that they're not. Okay? So being able to understanding and recognizing, oh, she's trying to use shame and guilt on me right now. You don't have to be angry about it. It's just like, okay, I recognize what she's doing, so I can respond accordingly. It would be like, oh, that tiger has some claws, so I'm probably going to keep my distance from the tiger. I'm not saying keep your distance from women, but in this example, that tiger wants to eat me, so I'm probably not going to stick my finger in the tiger's cage when I'm going to watch it at the zoo. I'm going to keep a respectful distance and understand its true nature. Same with women. Once you understand them for what they actually are, you can truly love them, and I think this will help you to kind of get past that initial kind of traumatizing experience you've had with women, and accept that they have a light and a dark side as well. I think you just need to be exposed a lot more to the light side of women to truly appreciate them for what they actually are. Now, on the second thing you mentioned, again, this is a shitty situation you've been put into, but you already know that you're like, if you don't fall in love with men, if you don't fall in love with men, then you're not gay. I wouldn't even call you bisexual. Like, if you can only fall in love with and have meaningful relationships with women, then that's how you should identify yourself. Don't give a fuck what any retard writes in a book. Don't give a fuck what any retard is talking about on the internet. Like, it's your life. You get to define things for yourself. So, and it sounds like you're having a lot of conflict with that because you've had these past experiences, and you've fallen into this kind of trauma habit, by the sounds of things. So you're at least consciously aware of it. So you have to be very, very vigilant in breaking that habit and not falling back into that habit. And I think, personally, again, I think the solution to these things is going to be the same. I think trying your best to find a loving, meaningful relationship with a woman, one-on-one loving, meaningful relationship with a woman, will help you get through a lot of this stuff, and help you avoid maybe that temptation or those trauma habits. Also look at what kind of things are triggering that habit and what is causing you to sort of seek out those male partnerships. And you've said you feel like shit after you engage in them, but what is triggering that? Like, what is it? Is it when you're drunk? Is it when you're depressed? Is it when you've masturbated? Like, what is the trigger that causes you to pursue that, right? And if you can find the trigger, then you can cut the trigger out. And then the third thing, can you read that third part again, just so I can reiterate? I think I remembered it, but it's something to do with
how do I get out of this unhealthy headspace and center on one of confident sexual masculinity? Yeah, okay. Well, and these two things are tied together. So identifying confident and healthy masculinity, right, is knowing what you want, knowing who you are, knowing what you want. Cool. If you define what you want, I want a loving, healthy relationship with a woman, and I'm not going to go down that other side of the fence, as you called it. Cool. You know what you want, and doing it confidently, right? And you said, I think you also said, coming from a place of being on guard to being kind of in control. I think the on guard side of things sounds like it's coming from, again, that darker side of female nature where they're underly been through a lot of stress and trauma with women, and you have to kind of get into the ideal state is one of calm arousal. So you can be sexually aroused by women whilst remaining calm around them, and not on guard or anxious or nervous. That is the ideal state you need to be in. I think addressing those first two things we talked about, accepting female nature for what it actually is, will allow you to get to that place where you do not feel on guard anymore and feel like she's trying to manipulate you or take something from you or trick you or do anything like this. And you can just be present in the moment and thoroughly enjoy it. So, thank you for writing me in. I hope this really helps you. And best of luck, my friend.